This is what we are. We are alive.
Hi everybody, I'm Eilidh Dickson and I work at CIID, which is Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design. As the name suggests, we're based in Copenhagen in Denmark. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach to design education and some opportunities we see in the general kind of learning landscape moving forward. Before we get started, I'm going to talk a little bit about CIID in general and where we've come from. So CIID was established in 2006, almost 10 years ago, and the founders had this kind of crazy vision to create an international hub for interaction design, and it would combine education, it would have consulting, it would have research, and a startup incubator. And actually, 9.5 years later, it's happened. This is our little yellow house in Copenhagen that we occupy. Please come and visit if you're ever passing through. And right now in the building we have a one-year master's course in interaction design. We have a professional consulting team that works on early stage product and service development. We have a research team which kind of tinker and explore new applications for technology. And we have a startup incubator which is called The Nest. Although operationally, those groups within CIID are somewhat independent, we share the same culture, we share the same vision, and that's really about creating impact through the design of products and services that are people-centered and enable better futures. Another thing that really ties us together across those different groups is our love and reliance for prototyping. So for us, when we think about prototyping, it's a process tool. It's not something you do once you have a solution already defined. So as soon as we have the seed of an idea or a thought, we build it, we test it with real people, we get their feedback, and we iterate it. And we do that again and again and again until we have a solution that actually makes sense. And we apply that to the project work we do across the whole building, but it's also really how we approach growing our business as well. So that's a little bit about CIID overall, and now I'm going to dive into our educational program, which is called the Interaction Design Program, very original name. So our mission is really about educating the next generation of interaction designers to create meaningful, pragmatic, and socially relevant concepts and solutions. We're not saying that we're trying to save the world through design, but we're definitely trying to have an impact and make sure the solutions that we create play a clear role in our future. The course is divided up into 4 main components over the course of a year. So the first one is a foundation block, where the students are exposed to kind of fundamental skills under the umbrella of interaction design. So that can be physical computing, it could be programming, design research, video prototyping, a whole host of skills. They then go on to do investigations, which are longer context-based projects, which focus on kind of a more thoughtful design brief or challenge. During the course of the year, they also do industry projects. So these are 2-week sprints. They do in collaboration with an industry partner around a particular business challenge or design challenge. So in the past, we've worked with companies like IKEA, Lego, Philips Healthcare, Intel, kind of a broad range of kind of bigger corporations, not always design driven though. And then finally, the last 8 weeks of the course is when the students will work on a final project. And this is basically a chance for them to explore something they're passionate about and something they want to dig into in more depth. And actually, that's the first point where the students will work alone. Up until this point, they'll have been working in teams for the whole year. So the course has been running for 8 years. We've graduated 151 alumni from 40 countries, and at the end of this year it'll be 176 students will have graduated, and we've published over 1,000 projects. And last year we were nominated the 17th best design school in the world by Business Insider, which we're incredibly proud of for being such kind of a small and I guess somewhat boutique school. When our students graduate, they go and work in many places, from kind of big corporations to tech firms to startups to agencies. But what's really nice to see is every year they get a little bit more entrepreneurial, so they have more drive to build their own products and to start their own companies. So the last thing to mention in this part is that we're unaccredited. And in Denmark, this poses some logistical challenges, which I won't get into now. But on the flip side, we have an amazing benefit that we can change and iterate the course whenever we need to. And we can make it the best possible experience it is for the students. And that's because we're not tied to kind of a bigger governing academic institution. So we have 4 design principles for the IDP that we live by to ensure we create this great experience for our students. The first one is we're reactive and responsive, and that's to the needs of people, it's to the needs of industry, but also what's going on in society. So every year we look and see, is there new technology we need to understand? Are there new skills we need to be teaching to the students? And then we can very quickly integrate them into the curriculum. We also look at, are there topics or issues that we should be addressing? So are there things that maybe deserve to be in our spotlight for a little while? So last year and continually, there's a lot of political discourse in Denmark around integration and immigration. So we decided to place that as a focus for a number of those courses and try and start to address some of those challenges. The course is taught by industry professionals who have experience getting stuff done. So the faculty is all visiting. This means that for every course or skill we want to teach, we can pick the best possible person out there to come and teach it. So every 2 or 3 weeks, the students are being exposed to new faculty, new opinions, and new voices. And we find this really encourages them to develop their own point of view and basically what sort of interaction designer they want to become. They're not just hearing the voice of one professor for a year. And then we have a big focus on teamwork. So we look to build super teams, not superstars. So when we're choosing the students at the beginning of the year, we want to create the best possible group overall. And my colleague has a little bit of a cliche but quite accurate metaphor that we're trying to build a choir that will sing in harmony rather than a bunch of solo artists that might compete. And this is really a reflection of kind of our belief of where creativity and design is going, that it's no longer about these single rock stars crafting beautiful objects by themselves. The opportunities and the challenges that designers are addressing these days are complicated and they're ambitious and they're messy, and you need those cross-disciplinary teams to solve them effectively. I think one of the really positive things that we see from this is that designers are becoming much more humble. They have confidence and faith in their skills, but they don't have an ego. And that's such a pleasure to see, and it's such a pleasure to teach those people, and it's such a pleasure to work with them. And I believe it's because it's no longer about my idea that I'm creating and building, it's something we're doing as a shared activity. And lastly, we see technology as a medium, not an output. So we don't go into a course thinking we're going to create this piece of technology or we're going to use this very specific piece of technology. For us, it's a tool, it's this amazing piece of magic that essentially allows us to bring our ideas to life and to create the experiences that we want to deliver. So to make this a bit more concrete, I'm going to share just a couple of projects from the program to make a little bit more literal. The first one is this project called News Globus. It was done actually just a couple of weeks ago in a physical computing class. And this interactive globe allows you to explore news between 2 particular regions in the world. And by connecting 2 regions with the audio jack, it pulls data from the New York Times API and shares a news story. So I'll just share a short video.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered the withdrawal of the bulk of Russian military forces from Syria. He said the Defence Ministry's main mission there had been accomplished. Russia's permanent naval base in Tartus and
Saudi Arabia and France are holding high-level talks to finalize a multi-billion-dollar deal between
Chinese clubs are also investing in homegrown talent. Some are sending young players to Spain to develop skills that they can bring back home. Dan Williams explains.
So that's just an example of the sort of project that might come out of one of those foundation classes. This project was actually created in 3 days, so something done very, very quickly. But I can guarantee the students probably worked for 48 hours without sleeping. So the next project I want to share is one called Pass a Pass by Isaac Bertrand. And this was a final project from a few years ago. And it's a tool to help children learn specific subjects, but through stop frame animation. So the goal was really about making learning more hands-on and more tangible and taking abstract concepts like mathematics and physics and making them much more concrete and actionable. So very simply, you put a cartridge into this screen, it loads a program, and then you follow a stop frame kind of program, and you're subtly learning a specific subject from school. So to wrap up, I want to share a little bit about some opportunities that we see at CIID moving forward. I would say kind of in the more broader learning landscape. So the first one is about education as lifelong learning and looking at how can we support talent throughout their whole career. So not seeing education as just kind of one touch point or 2 touch points in your life. And we think there's this really big opportunity to look at how do you provide more immersive learning experiences for people who are in the middle of their career or later in their career, where they can grow, they can learn. It's not just about learning a new skill, but it's about refreshing your thinking and essentially kind of keeping excited in your career. And if you look at that landscape right now, there's kind of a huge spectrum. So on one side, you have people going to do maybe a skills upgrade or a crash course in a new skill at somewhere like General Assembly. And then on the other end of the spectrum, maybe someone goes and does a sabbatical for a year where they reflect about what to do next. And there's nothing really in between those two spectrums. And I think there's a big opportunity there. The second one is about building a generation of change agents. So a lot of designers, a lot of creative people are starting to work in big companies right now. So companies that maybe don't have a history of design or creativity. So IBM has literally built an army of designers in the last couple of years. And I think designers can really have an impact in those environments, but they need to learn how to navigate the organization and how to work with other professionals who aren't necessarily creative and speak their language. So I think, and I do believe there's a big opportunity here that when you combine creativity with the expertise of a completely analogous industry, you can have a lot of impact. But I think in order to do that, we need to think about, in educational programs, how can we prepare students for when they go and work in those big companies? How can we help them kind of make that transition, navigate those more bureaucratic organizations, and essentially work with people who don't have experience in the same field as them. And then finally, design like we give a damn. And I'm going to try and not sound too preachy at this point. But I think creative people, designers are incredibly resourceful. And I think on an education level, we need to empower them and inspire them to put their skills to good use and really think kind of ethically about what they put into the world. So just to wrap up, I think CIID as a company is always going to evolve. It's always going to try new things. It's definitely not in our DNA to stand still. I think one thing that will stay the same is our goal, which is about equipping designers with the confidence and the tools to create solutions that engage with people. And we really believe that if you create a solution that people engage with, or if it helps them, or they enjoy using it, first of all, they'll use it, but they'll continue to use it, they'll advocate it, and they'll look after it. And you start to create so much more longevity in those solutions that you're designing. And I think Cameron Sinclair sums up very, very nicely of why this is so important, that the most sustainable solutions are the ones that are loved. Thanks very much.